Ladies and gentlemen, what's up? This is BC. Welcome back to another video. I wanted to do a video today on making peace with your past or you will pay for it. I want to attack this subject from various angles and help you realize something very important. You see, for many of you, when you look at the past in particular, but also the future, you do not look at it in the right perspective, and the act or action of you looking to the past, right? Or to the future, because you're doing it incorrectly, it is negatively impacting you in your life. Okay, now for this video specifically, we're going to target the past and I want to discuss it. This may take, 10, 15, 20 minutes. I don't know. I will probably package this up into a podcast episode as well. All right. So make peace with your past. Let me give you a few examples and run this thing down as we unpack it. Okay. Number one is this: a lot of character traits that you exhibit as a human being. Socially inept, considering yourself good at something, right? A lot of stuff that stems from our personality too, right? Like the first thing that I mentioned, a lot of that, all that really is a recording in your mind of how you've handled those things in the past up until this point, okay? Now, what I mean by that is this, right? Classic example, my channel, a lot of it revolves around, sales and communication, right? So let's use one of those examples because it's the simplest one. Communication, right? Many of you still run around with these labels, introvert, extrovert, and all that fun stuff, right? Now, many of you haven't even really gone into those subjects and taken it seriously, right? You just, whatever you were fed naturally, whatever you were given, you just rode with that. It wasn't something that you really pursued, and now you have this label, but all that really is again, an accumulation of how you've handled social situations in the past, right? Now, maybe you didn't target something from early on in your childhood. Maybe somebody told you when you were really young to shut up and stop talking, and that kind of scarred you, right? But now that's been swept under the rug, and now moving forward, you just were maybe a little bit hesitant in social situations, but now that creates your identity as an introvert or whatever it is. Now, I'm only giving you one example here. There could be a myriad amount of examples, right? But you have to make peace with the past. Accept that somebody yelled at you, right? Accept that previous until this point, okay, I didn't handle social situations the way I wanted to. However, I can change it. But it first requires you making peace with the past. That's a very simple example of how to do it. Be okay with the fact that that happened. What do? You look back and you're shamed because of it. You're upset. You want to change the past. You yell at yourself and you go through this whole process. It doesn't do anything to better your situation or actually change it, right? You keep creating negative emotional stimuli that further embeds it into your system, right? Basically, those are engrams that are created, right? But I'm not going to sit here and unpack that subject for you. But make peace with it. Make peace with it. Say it's okay. Now you can come and fast forward to the present and do something about it and say, that's my past. Part of making peace with it is being able to do a video like this and admit, or in person talking to people or to the people around you, to admit that, you know what? Yeah, I'm shitty socially. I'm garbage. But you know what? Starting today, I'm going to change it. And if you don't believe me, sit back and watch. That simple. It's that simple. So taking these steps, now that's the catalyst to change, to growth, to moving forward, to not having that haunt you anymore, to stop looking back at it, either complaining or shaming yourself or making yourself not feel good and disempower yourself even more, right? As simple as that sounds, that's exactly what many of you need to do. Now, for some of you, it's, character traits. For others, it's other traumatic situations. I mean, it could be, personal, business, financial, romantic relationships, friendships. It could be anywhere in those categories. But everybody, to a degree, whether big or small, has to handle these things. And believe me, I've done it. A lot of that process for me too has been, sharing on social media, because it's allowed me to be vulnerable, not only to me and my personal circle, but to the world, and say, yo, this is something I didn't do good before. This is something that I failed at. This is something that I struggled with, right? Being able to come on camera in the past and be like, you know what? When my basketball career was over, I was depressed for a little bit, literally, because I had dedicated my life to that and I had to work out of it, right? I had to hit rock bottom and then, reinvent myself and do all the other stuff that we've been discussing, on these channels and my podcasts and videos for a long time, right? I had to admit that not only to myself, but to the people close to me, and then more importantly now, the world, being vulnerable. Now, forget about being vulnerable with the world for a second, with yourself. That's what, part of this process requires. But you have to become okay with the past. Everything that you did in the past, it's okay. You did it for whatever reason. Move on. It doesn't mean that that's you permanently. Case in point, when I was a little kid, I remember, going to little stores and stuff and like stealing little candies and shit. Does that mean I'm a fucking thief? No. It just means in the past I was a mischievous little punk, right? But I got over it. I accepted it. I admitted it, licked my wounds, right? Paid the consequences for my actions, and then I moved forward. Right? How many things that we do as little kids? Let's err on the negative now. There's probably a lot of positive that we did too if we look at our imagination, our ability to be stubborn with our goals, right? But let's look at the negative aspect side, right? The flaws that we had in our character. Many of us were doing dumb shit, maybe beating people up, bullying people, stealing, and little stuff like that. That doesn't mean that as an adult you're a bully, thief, and everything else. Unless you are. If you are, okay. Then that's what you are. But many of us made little actions or did little things in one moment that doesn't define the rest of your life. Make peace with it. Maybe some of you watching would have never have guessed it as a kid I stole stuff. Well, I did. It's a dumbass at times. We would do stupid games too where we would see let's say we would see a cop and we would run. We did dumb shit. Hopping over fences and doing things that we weren't supposed to do. Trespassing, right? We just did it as kids. Now for the things that we got caught with, yeah, we paid the consequences. We got in trouble with our parents or whatever. But again, that doesn't define me today. It just means I was a punk and I went through a phase. Who cares? Now, can you admit that to yourself? I can, and I can admit it to the world. I don't care, and I'm sure some people will comment on here and talk shit. Good for them. I don't care. It doesn't define who I am. I made peace with all that stuff in the past. I made peace with it. But what you do is you hide that. And when people poke at it, it affects you because that's another consequence of holding this stuff inside. Not only does it hold you back, you now create this kind of weird vibe when you interact with people, because anytime a subject is brought up or things are talked about that air around that particular subject for you, you become very insecure and it's obvious. Right? Let me give you some examples. People who are very insecure with money, whenever there's a discussion or anything about money, right? They either shut up and they're silent, or they start talking bad about money, steering the subject, being overly aggressive and defensive, right? Something is off because you're dancing around a subject that makes them very insecure and they don't want the truth to be out. I don't even care so much about the social consequences of that and the embarrassment, but for them internally, they'll break, right? They'll break and they don't want that. So they'll change the subject and do what they have to do to whatever, steer around it and steer clear of that particular thing. So looking at this subject, there's many layers of it, there's many pieces of this puzzle, but you have to start systematically going through and saying, all right, what part of me do I still beat myself up about? What thing happened in the past, right? What part of my perceived character do I still not enjoy or not accept, at least from the past? What thing am I still dealing with now that I haven't really worked on or put any effort towards, but I still demonize myself about it? Right? These are intimate conversations that you have to have, you with you, and start unpacking some of these things, because the change doesn't come until you start accepting and making amends and peace with the past, right? Many of you who are familiar with organizations like, Alcoholics Anonymous or something like that, they talk about that, right? In any group, any organization where they discuss change, right? First, it's accepting that you have an issue or a problem, right? Something like that, right? Are you doing that? Because this is a challenge, this is an issue that you want to improve, that you want to better with yourself. Not being okay with the past and what happened and being able to file that away will have devastating consequences on your present and your future. You're still holding on to it, and we know that what you track and measure improves, right? What you focus on, you get more of. Well, if all you're focusing on is your past and what you don't like and this and that, what do you think is going to happen now and in the future? You're going to create more problems, more emotional instability. Do you want that? No, nobody does. Nobody does. Okay, so we have to learn to let these things go. Now, in the temporary, when you start doing this, you may have personal embarrassment and not feeling good when you let other people know because of their lack of communication skills. They may be very harsh and their responses to you. They may poke at you and make fun of you and use it against you. You have to be okay with that. Why? Because you'll realize that this social embarrassment or fear of being embarrassed is not a big deal, dude. And that is one of the most debilitating things for most human beings, because the fact that they're afraid to even experience that or put themselves in a position to experience that embarrassment, right, or people teasing them, stops them from achieving their dreams or doing anything noteworthy with their lives. Not noteworthy in the sense that they get attention and admiration from other people, but noteworthy to themselves. To say, I lived a life worth living, I did what I wanted to do, I was fearless, right? I went after everything I wanted to go after, regardless of whether I accomplished it or not. The fact that they would be on their deathbed to say, I lived how I wanted to live, period, I can die in peace. Very few people are like that. How viral are the videos of older people? Oh, this is what I regret. This is what I should have done. Do you want to be that person? I don't. But one of those ways and one of the ingredients to that recipe of not being that person is this. You have to make peace with your past and let go of it. Okay? I mean, look at me, dude. I had to reinvent myself after severe injuries in a basketball career in which I dedicated my life to. Move on from that. Right? I still use pieces of it, of course. I built a lot through that, but I had to reinvent myself and let go of a lot of that stuff, right? I know a ton of people, I'm sure you do too. Oh man, back in high school and oh, back in college. And if this wouldn't have happened, I'd be this person. The has-beens, the people who dwell on the past. I didn't want to be that. And I'm sure you know a ton of people like that and you will continue to meet them. I don't want to be that, right? But I had to make peace with that past, say, okay, what happened, happened. I need to move forward, reinvent myself and do something new. So now you know me as this, realtor, right? Business person, CEO, internet personality, at whatever capacity you know me at. None of this would have been possible had I not let go of that. I'd be that dude at the bar getting drunk, or that one little neighborhood cool guy who was very good at sports, but who just had bad luck. And I'd be another one of those sad sob stories, working a shitty job, being miserable. I didn't want to do that. Hell no, I didn't want to do that. I refused to do that. Why? Because what happened, happened. I had no control over that. All I have control of is my response and what I do moving forward, and the present moment, what I'm doing now. This is all I have control of. I can project for the future, right? I can talk about, think about, fantasize about the past, but all that really matters and that you need to focus on is now. Now is creating the future. Now, and what you do now also allows you to let go of the past. Focus here. With some guidance in the future, sure, or to look to the past temporarily, briefly, to learn from your mistakes and move forward more strategically. But that's it. It's now. What are you doing now? I don't care about what you did yesterday, or the year before, or 2 years ago. What are you doing now, and where are you going in the future? That's what I want to know. That's what I want to know. I don't want these extremes of only in the future, only in the past. No, it's the present. It's the present moment. And even when you talk about the present moment, it just went. When I talk about now, boom, it's already in the past. That moment already went by. Now, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? This is why I always tell people this idling, this mindless entertainment, you have to move past it, right? If we're going to look at the past, it's as a measuring stick and a tool to get better or to make amends with the past. If it's with the future, we're connecting the dots to where we want to go, period. But we have to really start honing in and focusing in on the now. On the now. This, my friends, is the key. What can you do today to make amends with the past? What can you do today to transform who you were in the past and make yourself better and reinvent yourself and grow and develop and evolve and all the other things that we want to do and progress? That's what the focus needs to be. Because when you're here and you're focused on that, you don't have time to think about the past. It's when we start idling and not doing anything and watching Netflix and bullshitting, that's when your mind starts going crazy on you, right? Because your mind, as sophisticated as it is, it's also very primitive. And it's always assessing. If you don't put the right things in your mind, it's going to assess threats, possible negative things. Because that's just the way the mind is wired, dude. Until you rewire it, until you understand it, until you start doing the right things and taking the right actions and putting the right thoughts into your mind and the right influences and symbolism in your environment and getting the right people around you and all that stuff we've been talking about for years that has never changed and will never change. Because that's the simplicity and simultaneous complexity of the human being all wrapped up into one. And the beauty is you have the internet and people like myself and other people who impart from their experience and things that they've learned to help you. Now, what are you doing with it? Is it just being lost in the mix and white noise, like when you turn on the TV and there's static? Or are you actually doing something with it? What actionable steps are you going to take now? Put it in the comment section. Tell it to yourself. Write it on your notepad if you're taking notes, which you should be. What are you going to do? How are you going to stay focused more on the present moment and being more aware? Think of the old exercise that I've given you guys over the years of bringing awareness to your day while you're driving. Are you conscious of your driving? Do you remember the last 10, 15, 20-minute drive that you went on? If I asked you details, would you know? You're just floating, dude. Be aware. Be here now. How many of you maybe struggle to even watch these 15 or 20-minute videos? And I'm a good speaker. I'm not a shitty speaker that can't hold your attention. But how many of you struggle? It just goes to show that all of us need work on our focus and our ability to even do one simple task, which is watch a video, attentively with the focus of learning and taking notes, period. Even I find myself being distracted at times, right? And I work on this shit every day. So make amends with the past, man. The past is the past. Learn from it. Stop letting it define you. You don't stop and you're not measured by solely your past. What are you doing now? Give me somebody who maybe has a questionable past or a shitty past, but now in the last 6 months or year, they've been reinventing themselves and working hard. Okay, that's an individual I can work with because they've already demonstrated a lot of things that I would want to see in an individual. They've demonstrated to me that they've accepted their past and they moved on. They're not hiding it, right? They're being transparent about it, but they're actively doing something about it to create change. That's the individual that I want. That would be a person I'd put on my team. That's the type of person I want around me. Because I know there's no bullshit with that person. I know that they admit that they were wrong, but they're actively not just talking about it and thinking and philosophizing. They're doing, they're acting, they're doing something about it to create change and grow and evolve from that past, because that doesn't define them. To me, what defines you is what are you doing today? What are you doing today? That's the theme of this. What are you doing today? What are you doing right now? What are you doing right now? That's what we need to talk about. That's what we need to see. That's what's most important to me. That will determine the future. What are you doing now? What are you doing now? So, my friends, hopefully these last 20 minutes or so with me have allowed you to kind of look at some of these things and understand really what's important, right? How the past doesn't define you, how you can change things, how things aren't permanent or how you think they are, and how we're not just defined by the past and all these other metrics that people use and society uses to measure you or your progress or where you're going. Don't worry about any of that, man. Focus on the simplistic things that you can do now. Focus on today, being more aware now, and some of these simple things that I've given you, right? And when you do look at the past, make amends with it, make peace with it, learn from it, use it as a reference point, right? If you've made mistakes, you make sure and you refer, okay, I'm not gonna make those same mistakes again, I'm gonna learn. But don't dwell on it, don't sit there talking about it, don't be that has-been who talks about 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago or what you did last week. Nobody cares. Be now, be present, do what you can now. That way the future is gonna be more bright, more successful, more fulfilling, and everything else that you want. That will be the key, okay? So that's it for this one, guys. If you enjoyed it, like and subscribe. Follow my podcast as well, Supreme Being, on all major platforms. We also have the YouTube channel as well that you may be watching this episode on. Appreciate all the love and support. If you guys are interested in joining my coaching, Modern Success, or checking out any other products or service that I offer, go to bryancasella.com. And huge announcement that we are doing the Ultimate Sales Technician, which will be my final event of 2021. You guys know I haven't done events in a while. I just did the Primal Code. The Ultimate Sales Technician is going to be beginner, intermediate, advanced, all techniques, strategies, systems for people who are in sales and communication fields or looking to vastly improve in them. It's going to be 3 hours each day, the 30th and the 31st of December. It will be in person here at my Miami office, also streamed on Zoom, and every single participant will receive a full HD recording of the event. So if you can't make it for whatever reason, I still recommend you sign up because you'll get the recording. Because if you didn't know, every single event that I do now, I package up as a product. However, when I sell it later as a product, it will be more expensive. All right, that's it for this one, guys. Leave a thumbs up, comment if you haven't already. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.